I'm just going to open it up. Whoever wants to start us off, just go ahead and unmute yourselves and ask your question.
So yes, sorry, I was clearing my throat. First of all, hi, I'm Sean Hopewell. I'm a student here at SIU. It's wonderful to meet you, Ted. Thank you for taking the time to talk with everyone today. Um, so as far as you being sort of in the comic world and the band world and a bit of the movie world, from a writing perspective, what would you say is sort of that link between, you know, writing a comic book character versus writing like the main character of a film, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think I what I would say first of all is that going from film to comics, which was completely ass backwards to how everybody else does it, um, we just loved making comics because it was so liberating. Like everything we dream up just goes on the page. You don't have to think about the budgets, the locations, finding the cast and crew, and so in terms of writing it, I you really do have to sort of think about that budget when you're writing it. Where but I format my comics the exact same way. I'm using a film program, and I think more with comics in the writing, I end up getting involved with layouts. So it's just different ways to communicate to, let me see if I can show an example of this. To communicate with my artist, so like I'll have my daughter, that's her there, Jada, and she'll like pose.
Are
And
you,
then,
are you using Comic Life 3, or what are you doing to put her image in?
oh, I'll just take a photo with my iPhone and then drop it into Photoshop. And then I take that into Illustrator. Let's see, there's some more over here, perhaps. Yeah. But like some of the layouts get pretty elaborate, and this is not necessarily recommended as a method, but I think this is a 2-page spread, and I got these figures that I'll pose and do all kinds of, you know, weird kind of jazz like that. I don't know if that completely answered your question, but it's for me, it's a lot, it's very much the same. I think with comics, I'm now much more visually thinking about layouts as I'm writing.
Thank you. That answered it. I appreciate it.
Of
Thank you for your time.
course.
Hey Ted, I'm Bryce Patterson. I'm a MFA student in the English department. Yeah, and I wanted to ask about, so you have that kind of interesting blend of sort of, your rock band becoming a musical, or moving into that, and then creating this film, and then this comic character sort of being born out of that, but being also its own distinct work. And I was just interested, like, how you think about moving between I guess like those different mediums, and that sort of like linking the different things you do in that way.
Yeah, another great question. So as we were making, and I'll use an example to kind of describe how that process goes. As we were making Apama, we'd made like the first 5 issues. It was in issue 5 that we introduced the nemesis of the series. Regina is her name. So she's like this hippie, trippy cult leader. And I can sort of just show you the cover on that one. So that's Regina there. That's Apama 5. But then it was like in issues, so we issues 10 and 11. So I'm still, as we're making comics, I'm still making my living doing film as well. And I was hired to do this documentary about Near West Theater in Cleveland. This is what became Move On. And I was hired to make a 15-minute piece, and I was so fascinated. I shot 80 hours and I just kept going back. I knew there was a bigger story to be told. So, and what was happening is they were leaving this location where they've been for 30 years and moving to which started extremely modest in like a church hall with like 12 kids doing Godspell. And they were moving into a $6 million building, and they were just heartbroken about leaving this place that meant so much to them. And for this last performance, They only had actors who had been part of it over the 30 years in the cast. So everyone had these amazing stories about what this place had meant to them. And anyway, I told the people who hired me, I said, look, I know I way overshot this, but I think there's a bigger story. And I showed them some scenes and I said, I think we could make a documentary out of this on a feature length. And they found a funder who was willing to finance that. And we made Move On, and it started to play film festivals, won a couple awards. And then we got snagged because the music rights of what they were performing could not be cleared. So we had to just kind of stop with that one. While that was going on, we were making Apama, and this new theater was going right across the street from where our actual comic book character, our ice cream truck driver, lives at 65th and Detroit Avenue in Cleveland. Like we use an actual building. This theater's going right up across the street. I said, man, wouldn't it be funny to Milo? I'm like, if our guy joins a theater, this theater troupe, this holistic theater troupe, because he's tired of getting his ass kicked, you know? And so we like that idea, and we're thinking, like, what show would they be putting on? And then it hit me like a piano that had been dropped on my head from the 13th floor, man. Nothing like vaudeville, the musical I wrote all those years ago. And it's full of villains, you know, but like the villains will get locked permanently into their role. There's a supernatural thing that happens. So this is where we introduced, you know, I mentioned her earlier, the Tap Dance Killer. That was one of the songs. And so obviously there's been a ton of work done on Nothing Like Vaudeville when we were making the musical, but now to bring these characters in as characters playing those characters, it just felt really weird and fresh. And then I went to New York Comic Con, and images of Tap Dance Killer, I mean, I was selling prints of the character, and that show, the reaction to that character, like, who is this? Who is this? We want to know. And it just was so palpable. I said, well, we got to do something with this character. And so I launched her into her own series, and that became our bestseller here. Oh, you want to show the trailer? Yeah, okay, there it is. Yep.
Don't look to me to be your guide. Sometimes the blood only makes me slide, 'cause I got rhythm tapping in my shoes, and something that'll cure all your blues. Don't want your love, don't got the time. I'm the Tap Dance Killer. Where's the next crime?
Hey, true believer, this is Ted Sikora, creator of Tap Dance Killer.
Sorry, that was like the worst Stanley impression ever. It's more like a pirate. Anyway, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to tell you about our character, our series, and this Volume 1 collection. It starts with a woman named Nikki St. Clair. She's a mega talented actress who gets cast in a horror show musical as the Tap Dance Killer, but then she can't shake the role. She starts taking it to the streets, thinking she's this sort of 1920s vaudeville performing assassin. She and her theater buddies, the Vaude-Villains, embark on a task to take out the mob as the new crime power. I call her the ultimate actress because her identity is blown. So when she goes out into society, she's always got to come up with a new persona, and all this plays into a lifetime of honing her own acting skills. I get asked all the time on the convention circuit, why did you make her black? I'm married to a black woman. We have a wonderful daughter. So it was very important and personal to me that we have this kick-ass black female character in the Hero Tomorrow comics universe.
Terror is my name. I use it, others feel it. It shall bring me fame. Earth is ripe, it's time to peel it.
Finally, the last person is gone, leaving my children and I alone.
Look what Lizzie made.
It has been my honor to be joined on this journey by artist Donnie Hadiwijawa and inker Chiz Ariswenda. The Tap Dance Killer Volume 1 collection will contain issues 1 through 5, and it will be loaded with extras. The character's origin story actually takes place in our other series, Apama The Undiscovered Animal. That is about an ice cream truck driver who becomes a superhero by unlocking the spirit force of the most savage beast mankind has never known. You do not have to have read Apama to start with Tap Dance Killer.
No matter the venue, they all know that I'll tap, jab, stomp, shoot, kill 'em with style.
I just love it. I love all of this. And I just want to make a comment real quick to sort of intercede before student questions. And that is this idea of the imagination that keeps going into itself and into the next universe. And I don't know exactly what to call it, right? So like for my films, or at least some of my earlier films, I do that kind of metafiction type of thing, like in a shoplifting from American Apparel, right? But I always love when a novel or a comic book talks about something and then that something becomes its own thing that you can then open up and enjoy, you know? So I think that's just incredible. And that they're all connected in this world for you. And to me, I just can't wait as one of your fans to see what's going to be the next trigger. And so it's almost like the way that you're creating is that you found that way to tap into that source of creativity for yourself. And that's something that's often very difficult because most people they don't go full blown into their imaginations like you're doing. But I think that maybe that's why it's coming so freely to you, which is that you're sort of just you're saying, let's do this, let's just go for it. And maybe that's what's the power that's creating it. But you know, I'm just curious what you have to say about it, and maybe what students have in response to say about that too.
Yeah, there's something that I've thought about a lot. You know that, you know, Apama, Hero Tomorrow, the movie, is about this struggling comic book creator. You know, and with a very hard to explain idea that I turned myself into that person because I was on convention floors explaining this very hard to explain idea of a character based on an animal that doesn't exist. You know, like I often said, this is like a joke I played on myself, you know, and I don't think Milo or I would have ever started a comic book series without having had done that movie first about this idea, you know. And really Apama 1 was just supposed to be a free comic book to read on the movie's website to draw attention to the movie. Like, we weren't thinking about becoming a comic book publishing company, but forcing ourselves to really just, all right, we've got this ridiculous idea. Now, how can we make it good? And somehow it all grew out of that. Like, that weird idea, which under any other circumstances, I would have just tossed off, or anybody would have tossed off, you know? And then all these other things grew out of it. That is really weird for me to think about. And I don't, you know, I'm just grateful that we pushed hard and we pushed through it, and all this has come, you know. But you know, yeah, any other questions on that? I'm happy to try to figure it out myself.
You're amazing, but I know Darren has a question.
Hello, I'm Darren. I'm pleased to meet you. I have a question. When you first decided to turn this into a comic book, how did you decide? How did you find the artist to work with, and how did you get it published?
So when we did the Hero Tomorrow movie, we had scenes in a comic shop, a lot of them, and we were not allowed. We talked to Marvel, we talked to DC. We said, hey, can we show? Is it all right to just have your books in the background? We're not going to, do anything. They flat out refused. They said, you are not allowed to show our stuff in your movie. I'm like, all right. So we went to a bunch of Comic Cons and we met a bunch of indie creators who would license us their own comics to show in the shop. And, got to meet a bunch of people in the industry that were very interested in what we were doing. And I think when we first just looked for an artist, we only went to, it was called, it might have been Deviant Art. And then we just put an ad out on Deviant Art, or it was like Digital Webbing. Those are two good sites for finding artists. And we found Benito Gallego. We got 100 people who applied from all over the world, and Benito's work just felt so Bronze Age Marvel. We loved it. He was our guy. Then when we got it done, I sent it to one of these guys from Mark Wheatley, actually, who was one of the people who donated books to our shop. And he'd been kind of mentoring us, put us in touch with a film guy that he had, some relationship with, who was also giving me advice along the way. And Mark offered to show the book to Diamond Comics, which at the time, Diamond distributed everything, Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, like all comics were through Diamond. Only over the last 3 or 4 years that's changed. And they accepted our book, and we had a Diamond account. So anything we published, is in store. It can go in stores. That means it goes into the big preview guide catalog, and stores have the option to buy it. Many don't, because it's an unknown indie, but there's a good handful that do. And, it was our first foray into getting it into stores, and that has just grown with every release. We've gotten bigger sales with each one.
Thank you.
Sure.
And one other thing. Excuse me, sorry about that.
No worries.
I like your heater. It reminds me of my grandparents' place.
Oh, yeah, right on.
Thank you.
Akron Tudor.
So I think I'm going to play the Bloom trailer now, just to take a look at it. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that's the villain who shows up in Apama #5. Bloom is her origin story. This one goes back to 1969.
Bloom, the origin of a prophet. She's not a witch. She's not ancient. She's not possessed. She is an entity like no other. Bloom is a 4-issue series written and created by Ted Sikora with art by Butch Mappa. The year is 1969. Bloom, the origin of a prophet. Meet Ramsey, mechanic by day and aspiring comic book creator by night. One evening, when he tripped in the forest, he was bombarded by bizarre and mysterious glyphs. He tries to use the symbols to create a new villain, but he can't get it right until he goes to a festival and encounters Regina, a wild dancer, a free spirit. He invites Regina into the woods for a photo shoot. He paints the symbols onto her body, and then she becomes rated R for language, nudity. Photo cover featuring Alicia Lynn. Psychedelic A cover by the late great Bong Dazzle. Romance and mystery covers by Benito Gallego. Incentive cover by Donny Hadiwijawa. Or be drawn into the cult cover by Butch Mappa. Double-sized 48-page issue 1. Read Blue. Experience Blue. Live Blue. Read it like your very soul depends on it. Blue, the origin of a prophet. This April, Regina's coming for you.
You know what I think? This world we're in right now is the fairy tale. And what's really real is on the other side.
And is that your voice that was doing the voiceover too?
Yes, it is.
That was really good. And it brings me probably to one of our last questions, in case anybody else has a question, which is this idea of digital storytelling. So you've done films, now you've done comic books, and I was curious if you're going to go back into sort of maybe creating sort of YouTube shorts where you could take something that's like halfway animated and do kind of like what these trailers are and sort of like create mini episodes of them, because I think they'd be wildly popular. They're perfect as sort of like these digital shorts that I think would also get people to buy the comics themselves. And you're such a good voiceover artist. I was just curious, you probably already thought about it too, you know?
It's been mentioned from time to time, and it's just, I think making the comics takes so much time that, the idea of making also like an animated version is just, it's a bit daunting. We'd need like a big team, I think, and that would require a lot of money. And, it's still, we're still very indie and just kind of sometimes shoestring budgeting this stuff. So, the thing that's in front of me right now, I'm trying to develop the whole world into like one TV series as a pitch. So that's going to be the big push over the next several months, is try to get, an agent or somebody who can, who digs it and thinks they can sell it.
And for that, are you creating a pitch deck, and how are you approaching it? Did you end up taking classes on how to sort of do it, or did you start, first trying to query agents to see who are interested?
Well, we have had some interest at conventions, and I even got an option offer that I didn't think was worth taking. So that's what got me started on, because they wanted to just option the rights and take them and do it with it what they wanted, where I felt, I've been thinking about these things for 30 years, all these characters, and I really feel like I've got an idea for how it could all flow into one series, and I wanted to spend the time kind of developing that. So I have, I started watching those master classes are great. The Duffer Brothers, but the Shonda Rhimes, Aaron Sorkinson. Did I say that right? Aaron
Sorkin. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. I mean, I learned a ton, and I feel confident that I can at least explain this pitch now in a way. And I have put a little more than a pitch deck together, I would say. I have the first episode written. So yeah, I'm actually going out to the American film market this early November here. So with the intention of seeing if I can, get some interest.
I have no doubt you're going to sell. I have no doubt.
Appreciate it.
I have no doubt it's going to go
Thanks.
great. And I'm in full support of you, and we are all in support of you at SIU. Can't wait for the good news that you're going to get in a month's time.
All right, thanks.
I believe it. I just know it. I'm good with these kind of things. Trust me.
All right. Well,
and
I appreciate the vibe.
Before we head out here, I just want to make sure if there's any other questions for Ted from the gang. I think that's a good place for us to end on this happy note of where this TV show is going. Oh, Sean has a question. Sean, go for it.
Not necessarily a question, just a minor story, because I've noticed a lot of the Spider-Man figures, and I figure you would appreciate me lamenting this. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Peter Parker is a character that I relate to a lot. And when I was young, my
You
aunt
look
got
like Peter
me.
Parker.
Yeah.
You, um, yeah, my aunt got me had an old copy of Amazing Spider-Man #1 when he came off of Amazing Fantasy.
Oh my God.
Um, and I would read it front to back so much. I really beat the crap out of it because I was so young, but I loved it. But unfortunately, it got lost to a flood one year when I was young.
Oh no.
But I every once in a while it pops into my head, so I figured you would appreciate the
Good
emotional
Lord, yeah.
loss.
Yeah, no, I started collecting Amazing like at issue 141. It was a Mysterio issue, and there's a Mysterio statue back there. He's always been my favorite villain. And man, I've gone back to the year of my birth. Um, well, this is fun for comic fans. You pick your favorite character and you find the year and month of your birth, and that is your spirit comic, you know. So for me, it's this really cool one. I don't think I have it here. So there's this issue, it's 61, and Medusa, you know, of the Inhumans, has Spider-Man wrapped up in her hair, and she's just like, it's this really, at the time, very risque cover, and we ended up doing an homage to it in Bloom because it was just so perfect anyway for the story. But I got to tell that story. So I've gone back all the way to 61, and I might be stopping there because it just keeps getting more expensive the further back I go. I don't know why.
All right. Any other questions, Bryce?
Yeah, I had just kind of a nuts and bolts question as far as like comic writing goes. So like when you're thinking about writing a single issue, I guess I'm interested in how you think about, the length of that, but also kind
Oh,
of narratively, like what beats do you
yeah.
try to cover in a single issue?
Yeah, it's another really good question. It's something I kind of developed. I really have never been a fan of how-to script books. I've really tried to avoid them my whole life. I when people say it needs a beginning, middle, and an end, I'm like, everything has a beginning, middle, and an end, whether you try to or not. Let's come up with some other thing that works. Jim Shooter actually had something that I really liked, and it was like, you establish your world, something happens to it, and what is the consequence? And like, it's better on his site, jimshooter.com. But what I do, I feel like, because these stories really take us a long time to make, more ideas just keep popping into my head. So I just keep jotting them all down. And I don't think I'll ever be able to tell all the stories that are up there, which is kind of a nice thing. I don't feel like I ever get really writer's block. I get writer's block sometimes when I have to write dialogue during a fight scene. That's the worst. It's just the worst. Like guys are talking to each other while they're kicking each other's ass. It just, how do you do anything fresh there? That's been the tougher thing. But back to your question, what I found is I will, a comic book is say 22, 23 pages. So I'll make I'll just open a spreadsheet and I'll make one long line. And I just start writing down scenes, and it's just an idea for a scene. There's going to be a fight at the dock, or the girlfriend starts to get suspicious about his tattoo, whatever it is. And then I have all these ideas jotted down, and then I just can move them very easily, one over the other. And then I'm like, okay, this scene's going to take 3 pages. So the fight at the dock will be 3 pages. This scene's going to be a half a page. This scene's going to be 1. And I just start to see these scenes are going to be occupied by these pages. And now all I have to do is write those scenes. And with a comic, it's kind of neat because now to do this scene, I only have to do 6 panels, and I just have to tell it in a way that the audience is going to get this. the dialogue, the narration, we got to leave room, when the nice thing about comic is, what happens between the panels, there's the reader becomes a participant in sort of visualizing some of the stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it just, you break it into little sizable chunks that you can then go in and apply detail to. And that's how we're doing it.
That's really, really helpful. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. And it was interesting when I was watching the Duffer Brothers masterclass, their process for writing the TV show was very much the same. Like they outline, and then the outline gets defined better. And they said this thing, and I was just like, oh my God, that's exactly it. If there's a problem with the script, it's because we didn't spend our time on that outline part. It's always a problem if we rush through the outline and go right to script. And I definitely recommend those master classes.
Ted, where could we go to get some of the books, generally support your work, like that sort of a thing?
Right on. Yeah. Well, we named the comic book company after the movie, so it's just herotomorrow.com. And additionally, social media wise, it's just Ted Sikora, TEDSIKORA, on pretty much any of the social media platforms, and Hero Tomorrow as well. So there's all kinds of combo deals and things if you're looking at more than, and I do what Comic Cons are near you? How close are you? You're not really near Chicago, or is this?
We're not particularly near Chicago, but I come from Northern Illinois, so it'd be easy for me to get up to Chicago.
Yeah, like C2E2, I often have done that show. But yeah, no, I mean, the website's terrific. So yeah, if I see any of your names come through, I'll throw in a bonus comic.
Well, it'd also be great, Ted, for you to come. We can invite you if you'd like to come. And give you an honorarium and sort of do a comic book workshop and a director's workshop. And I think we'd all love it. And there's so many of us that would benefit from it. Agree?
Yeah. Yeah, happy to take part. So yeah, let's keep the dialogue going on that.
Okay. All right, folks, I don't want to take more. We've sort of gone over our 45 minutes that we said for Ted, and thank you so much for going the extra minutes with us. Sure. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to more of your success. And thank you for joining us here at SIU.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.